guys see that plane flying around? Not crazy. What's up?
Who are you rooting for today?
Come on, man. Go Gators. Big game at LSU. We'll see what happens.
What is your message to the Prime Minister on this?
Well, look, the U.S.-Israeli relationship is very strong. It continues to be strong. The president wants this conflict to end. He wants all the hostages out, all 48 of them, living and deceased. Obviously, we're concerned that events last week, he didn't like the way it went down. He's expressed that publicly. There's concern that perhaps that could, we'll talk about, what impact it's going to have on efforts to get all the hostages back, get rid of Hamas, and this war. That's the president's priority.
What leverage can the U.S. bring to bear on that?
Well, I don't know about leverage. Look, I mean, our relationship with Israel is very strong. Everybody knows that. I wouldn't call it leverage. I do think we have influence. I think because we've worked on so many things together. So we'll be there to express that and also to express the president's views, which is that he wants Hamas defeated. He wants the war to end. He wants all 48 hostages home, including those that are deceased. And he wants it all at once. Like, he wants all the hostages now, not 5 and 10 and piecemeal. And we'll have to discuss about how the events last week had an impact on the ability to achieve that in short order.
I mean, the Taliban just said that they're...
Go ahead. The
Taliban is putting out a word that the U.S. has agreed to a prisoner swap.
Well, I don't know. Look, our special envoy for people unlawfully detained has been having conversations for a while. I think he went there to explore what's possible. Obviously, it'll be the president's decision in terms of any trades or any exchanges, but we most certainly want any Americans or anyone who's being unlawfully detained to be released. And so he went there to explore what that would look like.
Are you fully supportive of an offensive into Gaza City? What are you going to talk to the Israelis about on that regard?
Yeah, I don't know if we should get into that. I mean, I'm not going to get into that in the media other than to say the president wants this to be finished with. And finished with meaning 48 hostages released all at once. Hamas no longer a threat, so we can move on to the next phase, which is how do you rebuild Gaza? How do you provide security? How do you make sure Hamas or anything like it never comes back again? That's the president's priority. That's always been his priority. And that's what we're going to try to move forward on. And part of what we're going to have to discuss as part of this visit is how the events of last week with Qatar impact that.
Do you think the Qataris will still work with the U.S.?
I met with them. Vice President and I met with the Prime Minister yesterday. I know they had dinner with the President last night. So, we have a relationship with them as well. We've been working on a number of things with them. They've been, for example, very helpful in the DRC, Rwanda, or with the M23. They've been hosting those talks. So we had a visit there earlier this year. I did, and then went back a second time with the president. So they've been good partners on a number of fronts.
What about the president's plane, Mr. Secretary? Is there any questions or doubt that impacted in any way?
It never came up with me or in any conversation we had.
But are you concerned at all that they may follow through on their threat to do strikes again in Qatar?
Who's this, Israelis?
The Israelis.
Yeah, look, we're going to meet with them. We're going to talk about what the future holds and what I'm going to get a much better understanding of what their plans are moving forward. What's happened has happened. Obviously, we were not happy about it. The president was not happy about it. Now we need to move forward and figure out what comes next. Because at the end of the day, when all is said and done, there is still a group called Hamas, which is an evil group that still has weapons and is terrorizing. There is still 48 hostages that deserve to be released immediately, all at once. And there is still the hard work ahead of, once this ends, of rebuilding Gaza in a way that provides people a quality of life that they all want. And who's going to do that? Who's going to pay for it? Who's going to be in charge of it? So all that work is still there to be done. All that still needs to be dealt with.
You say you're not happy with that. Does it mean we ask the Israelis not to do this again?
I think the president's comments speak for themselves on that front. In essence, he didn't like the way it went down. But that said, it's not going to shake. Our relationship with Israel is going to remain strong. And sometimes, things happen or come up in those relationships that perhaps you're not 100% aligned with or what have you. But it's not going to change the nature of our relationship with the Israelis. But we are going to have to talk about it. Primarily, what impact does this have? What happened? What impact does that have moving forward on what comes next?
Should Israel withdraw its troops from Gaza City in this Operation Gideon's Fury? Should it pull back from that invasion?
Yeah, we're not talking about that or anything of that nature. I mean, that certainly won't be what I'm going to communicate. We just want to know what comes next. How do we get the 48 hostages out? What's the plan to defeat Hamas? So we can get to the next phase. Go ahead.
Just move on the settlements that they recognized the other day, that Netanyahu said recognized signed up on this E1 settlement that splits the West Bank in half.
Yeah.
You know, people say that means basically there's no Palestinian state in the future.
Yeah, look, I think part of that is a reaction to, that's an Israeli reaction to these efforts around the world to recognize a Palestinian state, including from countries in Europe and Canada and others that have signed on to this thing. I think it comes on the precipice of these meetings at the UN where it's going to become a topic. So I think that's the Israeli response to that, and we warned them. We warned a lot of these countries around the world that that's what would happen, or what we thought might happen if they went ahead with this. So I'm sure that'll come up in the conversation. That's all I'm going to say about it for now.
But isn't it contradictory to what you guys want, which is to...
Sir, you gotta...
invasive species.
Did I kill it? I don't know what that is.
Isn't it just doing more to inflame tensions with Palestinians and get further away?
Well, it all began when these countries start going out there and doing this recognition of a Palestinian state. We told them there's going to be a counter-reaction to that by the Israelis, and I think that's what you've seen. So we're going to talk about that holistically in terms of how it impacts the entirety of it. I'm sure it's a topic of conversation.
In Colombia, have you made a decision yet about whether or not you'll certify them? I know that deadline.
Well, we might have an announcement on that next week.
Will you inaugurate this tunnel to Temple Mount on Tuesday? There have been reports of that.
Well, let me tell you, the city of David is separate. I intend to go to that. I've been to that before. Many years. That's an archaeological site. It's one of the most important archaeological sites in the world. I've visited it numerous times in the past. I understand people want to involve politics in it. I understand everything in this region is political to some extent. But at the end of the day, it's an extraordinary archaeological site. It just is, and I think an important one for multiple faiths.
Qatar, I think starting Monday is going to meet with regional allies in the Gulf to come up with a response to the attacks. Are you going to bring a message to the Prime Minister about that?
Well, we talked to them a little bit about it yesterday. I'm not sure they've yet settled on exactly what it is they're going to ask of their allies in the region. I don't think it's breaking news that multiple countries in the region were upset about what happened. We're unhappy about it. Obviously, we're not going to be at that meeting. I don't think they've yet settled on exactly what it is they're going to raise as their message at that meeting. But our focus now is moving forward. What comes next? Because when all is said and done, despite what happened earlier this week in Qatar and Doha, we still have to deal with the 48 hostages, and they need to be released. We still have to deal with Hamas, which nobody in the region wants to see stay in place. And we still have to deal with, when that is settled and done, how do you rebuild Gaza so that in a way that this never happens again. All right, let's go. One more?
Yes, has the U.S. made any final determination or made any more decision about the Russian drone incursion into Poland, whether it was intentional or...
Well, there's still a lot of gathering happening. Irrespective, it shouldn't have happened. I don't think anybody's happy about it seeing happen. You saw NATO respond to it appropriately. We don't want to see it happen again. We think it's a unacceptable and unfortunate and dangerous development in this regard. I think it'll take a few more days for everybody to fully... The drones were intentionally launched. There's no doubt about the drones were intentionally launched. The question is whether the drones were targeted to go into Poland specifically. If that's the case, if the evidence leads us there, then obviously that'll be a highly escalatory move. There are a number of other possibilities as well, but I think we'd like to have all the facts and consult with our allies before we make specific determinations. We're being bombarded here by some kind of bug is on you now. All right, guys, let's get out of here before you get killed by a bug.
Can I ask you if you're going to, you think, attend Charlie Kirk's funeral services next weekend?
Yes, I intend to, assuming I believe we'll be back in time for it. Charlie was a great young man. I got to know him quite well, actually. In fact, I had spoken to him as late as last Thursday. I believe he was in South Korea, and was returning from South Korea. So he was in, and I admired all the stuff he said and did on campuses. I think he had an enormous influence on young people. Primarily, I think the most ironic part about all the Charlie Kirk situation, tragedy, is he was actually one of the few people out there that was engaged. A lot of people go out and give speeches. He was actually engaged in back and forth, I felt very respectful debate with people that disagree with him. He knew and invited people that disagreed with him, not just on college campuses, but on podcasts and interviews. He had people on his show. He would go on other people's shows. I think we actually need more of that dialogue and discourse. And so I think it's tragic and ironic at the same time that one of the few people out there that was engaged in that sort of debate back and forth on these topics, some of which are highly emotional and highly divisive, but nonetheless was verbally engaged. That's one of the voices that someone tried to go and silence through this horrible tragedy. Okay? Thank you, guys.
Mr. Secretary.
Safe with those bugs.
You ever feel like you're in one of those planes?
Huh?
You ever feel like you're in one of those planes?
I mean, in life or out here?
Yeah.
Oh,
Good
yeah.
job.
Well, I'm worried about how do we take off and not hit one of them.